Jannik Sinner, the man, the chosen one, the golden child, my personal favorite of the next generation in tennis. He's leapfrogged ahead of Cam Norrie. Cam Norrie, our champion, and Indian Wells, our shock champion. He's way ahead of Felix all day. You can see Felix all day. He's still in Wien in the quarterfinals, but even if he wins it, it'd take him to 28-30, 2,830 points. Jannik Sinner, even if he loses, he's still ahead at 29-25. And he can move ahead of Hubie Hurkacz, only 30 points away, who lost the old man Andy Murray. And he can leapfrog Casper Ruud boy.
Oh, it's breathtaking.
It really is. Yeah.
It's brutal. It's ruthless and it's brutal.
And there was a little slip in there. Again, Schwartz was just covering so much ground.
Brutal. You heard it. Jannik Sinner, breathtaking, brutal. He could be the chosen one. Welcome to the Coffee Break Tennis Podcast. We are back, as I promised last week. Late night Thursday, early morning Friday, depending what part of the tennis world you do reside in. Like I said, welcome to Coffee Break Tennis Podcast. Very happy to be here in an exciting time in the tennis calendar. We've got pretty much, we went through everything already for the race, but we'll look at the race. And I will recall there was a comment I saw that said, I don't know what you're talking about. This is the race. You don't drop points in the race. And of course, that is correct. I was wrong the way I phrased that last week. An unforced error, although here at Coffee Break Tennis, we almost never have unforced errors. And I could say we still have no unforced errors because I call it a forced error because we still have the jacked up COVID era ranking system. Let's take a look at the actual rankings, which Jannik Sinner, you can see right here. He's only 10 points from poor Dominic Thiem, who's nowhere near top 10 anymore if we had normal rankings. He's only 10 points from the COVID-inflated rankings of Dominic Thiem to getting into the top 10 at age 20. I think pretty recently turned 20, Jannik Sinner. Anyways, pretty close to passing Hubie Hurkacz also, who earned his way in there and isn't riding a ton of points from the past 2 years like Dominic Thiem. So Jannik Sinner, real deal. As you can see here, look, where's Roger Federer at number 15? Well, when we go to the race, back to the race, who's at 15? Pablo Carreño Busta is at 15. Roger Federer nowhere near here. Dominic Thiem nowhere near. I think, I can't remember. They're like closer to 50 than they are to the top 8. Let's say that at the very least. So you can see, even though points from the past are starting to drop, I think we started it in Cincinnati. There's still a lot of stuff. Now, things will happen fast next year. And let's go over to the former coach. Got a few things I want to get to today, but let's go to the former coach, Thomas Muster. This is from the Tennis Head. Put it on the screen. Next year will be extremely difficult for Dominic Thiem. Now, I don't have to explain how it works because he kind of explains it for you here with the ranking points. Next year, extremely difficult for Dominic Thiem. Thomas Muster predicts it will take the 2020 U.S. Open champion a while to adjust to life on tour again and get back to playing his best tennis. I believe, says Thomas Muster, I believe that he will be back again in 2023. Oof, that's a ways away. Next year, it will be extremely difficult. You just have to look at the ranking. If the COVID points are gone, and they will be, which is bad for Roger Federer too, I don't like that. He will be around number 60 in the world. At least Roger Federer, he's got quarterfinal points from Wimbledon last year. That'll stick around. If he can't defend the round of 16 at the Australian Open, it gets difficult at the beginning. And right now, I think he's holding much more points than round of 16 from the previous year, I believe. Anyway, it's confusing. It's hard to make sense of it. The point is, in the past, this time of year, I wouldn't look at the race because the race was kind of stupid. Early on, whoever's leading in the race, it didn't matter because all the big spots where the points were dominated by the big three. So you knew those guys, when those big tournaments came up, were usually going to win or go deep at least. And by the time you get to this time of the year where you're looking to see who's in, you just look at the rankings. You don't have to look at the race because pretty much everything is dropped already. Whether you defend it or not has already happened because we only have like one tournament left, not counting Wien and Österreich. We only have like one tournament left where points can drop. So I call it a forced error that I was talking about what points Sinner would drop, because in the past when we're looking at this on Coffee Break Tennis, we're this close to the World Tour Finals, we don't even look at the race. I just look at where are the rankings today because that pretty much is the same, but it is not because we still have COVID era points. Anyways, where was I reading this? When the COVID era points are gone, he's going to be like 60 in the world, and if he can't defend the round of 16, Dominic Thiem will be around 100 in the world. By the way, I looked at the race. I think Federer is 100 in the world in the race, something like that. No. I think Andy Murray. We have to talk about Andy Murray because you know what? He's recovering from tough matches and having other strong showings, good matches against some of the top players. He took out Hubie Hurkacz, which is, you know, it was looking like Hubie Hurkacz winning that Miami final against Jannik Sinner was going to mean the difference between him going to World Tour Finals and maybe Jannik Sinner not going back in Miami earlier this year. And thanks to Andy Murray, he took out Hubie Hurkacz. And that might be the difference right there. So thanks a lot, Andy Murray. He can definitely play spoiler. I think he's 100 in the race right now for all of his efforts this year. So we'll have to talk about Andy Murray in a little bit because he's been good. And that was a tough match that he lost to Carlos Alcaraz. From there, he won't even make it into all of the main competitions. Back to Dominic Thiem and Mr. Mustard. He has to get used to everything again as a result of this injury. Daily training or match practice, everything has to come back first. He sacrificed everything for the big goal that would happen at the U.S. Open, blah, 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 blah. Well, he's questioning, will he be motivated still despite having his big goal? Yeah. Speaking of big goals and being motivated on the tennis tour, take a listen to this clip. I found this very interesting. Tennis TV commentators, my favorite commentators over at Tennis TV. Some of them, some of the favorite. Better than Tennis Channel. I can say that at least. Maybe not everyone over at ESPN or BBC. All right. Anyways, listen to the commentators on Tennis TV talking about big rivalries and a big four of the future, which, we talked about it a lot here. It looked like we had a big four developing. Medvedev, Zverev, Rublev, Tsitsipas, the guys that could be in that big four potentially. Maybe Dominic Thiem if he was to come back to where he was before the injury, although Thomas Mustard doesn't seem to think that's going to happen anytime soon. Anyways, take a listen to this conversation here.
The other question for me, fascinating, is where's the next, or who will provide the next big rivalry, a la Federer and Nadal, or more recently, Nadal and Djokovic? Will it be Tsitsipas, Zverev? Our top two seeds.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Week.
I personally don't think we will have that. I think there will be a period of now in the men's game where I think they will share out the majors. I don't see someone utterly dominating. I mean, of course, you can never tell 100% because Tsitsipas could win his first and go on to win 7 of the next 9. It seems unlikely.
You don't see us having a big four again, as we've had for the last decade or so.
No, I don't. That might be a long time before you have utter dominance of a sport like we've had.
Do comment below. It could be a long time before we see utter dominance of a sport, in any sport, like we have in tennis with a big four. I'll say one thing. With Tsitsipas's loss today, the France's TFO, you can't have a great rivalry. Going back to the beginning of that clip, who's going to be our big rivalry? Is it going to be Tsitsipas and Zverev? Well, you can't have that big rivalry if one person keeps losing, or the other, randomly, back and forth. Even though they have these high rankings, they're not going to meet in the finals or semifinals of tournaments if you're always having one drop out, or sometimes both, early in tournaments all around the world. There will be no big four in the future. Well, we kind of talked about that last week, saying the golden era of tennis is over, which I do have some comments from last time I actually wanted to get to, but I'll just say about that, about what we just heard there. Yeah, we're definitely not going to see 4 guys winning every major. It does seem to be that way. But, and I heard a little bit of this kind of talk on Tennis TV. I don't know if it was those same commentators. I can't remember, but we do have a couple guys, right? Like Zverev, Tsitsipas, Medvedev, they're already getting into their 20s. Team is, way into his 20s. They're already getting into the 20s, and they don't have any majors. Medvedev's got one. They're not going to be able to do what the big three did, right? Those guys were winning a lot earlier. Federer would be the latest. I think Djokovic was 19, Nadal was 18. I think Federer was 21 when he won his first major, something like that. So Tsitsipas, he's not going to be able to do that. But we do have a couple guys. Alcaraz, who looked incredible in his win over Andy Murray. And Andy Murray, I'll say that really quick. What Andy Murray said about Alcaraz was interesting. I don't have it with me, but I'll do it from memory. And of course, Jannik Sinner, my pick. Although I do like Alcaraz a lot too, but I'd like to see some more. But I've seen a lot of Sinner, and I've always been saying from the beginning, the most impressive thing about Jannik Sinner is he kind of is like what you hear about the young Nadal. I'm trying to remember, how old was Nadal when I really started watching him closely? I mean, he was pretty young. He was still a teenager when I first started seeing him. But, you hear about how serious, how focused, the mental toughness was there from very early on with the young Nadal. And you see that with Jannik Sinner. So what Andy Murray said to me that was interesting about Alcaraz, these guys, they're young enough, right? They're still, Sinner just turned 20, and Alcaraz, is he 19 now? I can't remember where he is, but he's still a teenager. These guys could, right? If it's possible, right? Like you could see there's a couple players like El Chapo could still get to the Final 8 World Tour Finals this year. Yeah, well, it's a long shot. But mathematically, it's possible if he wins everything between now and the World Tour Finals. Well, if Sinner or Alcaraz or both, and they become great rivals, who knows? Maybe what we just heard from Tennis TV is dead wrong. If they start winning everything, they could get to 20 majors, those guys. They are young enough, and they look good enough to where it's an argument you could make. I don't know if it's going to happen. I really like Jannik Sinner, but I'm not going to bet. What do they have in Austria? What do they have in Wien that I can bet on? I don't know. I'm not going to bet my Wiener Schnitzel that Jannik Sinner is going to get 20 majors. I'm not going to bet on anyone getting the 20 majors. Anyways, they are young enough. I thought what Andy Murray said was very interesting in his presser after losing to young Carlos Alcaraz. He was saying how Alcaraz, when Murray was that age, Murray was not that strong, right? He couldn't hit the ball as big, even though he's super talented. I remember watching Murray when he's that young. And Alcaraz can hit the ball bigger. You just look at his body. Murray looked kind of like a kid who's really good at tennis. Alcaraz looks like a little beast. He's got a pretty strong body. And Murray said one thing I thought very interesting was that he could see Alcaraz winning tough 5-set matches now with the physical fitness that he has, whereas he couldn't do that himself at that age. He didn't back himself to do it, at least with the physicality. Maybe he had the talent level to pull off some big wins, but he was going to have a hard time physically. And Alcaraz, not such a problem. Now, of course, that's because tennis has changed. Sports in general have changed. It's just you got guys, the way the training is, the diet, the way they take care of their sleep, things like that, hydration. That sounds like simple stuff, but everyone knows how important those things are now. And anyone you work with in professional tennis, any kind of trainer, coaches, they're gonna put more emphasis on those kind of things. And that's a big way in which the game has changed. So if you're a top talent and you really put the work in, everyone's putting more work in, but some of these guys, do a better job than others, obviously. And Alcaraz is one of those young talents who's got the physicality and is super talented. And of course, he'll only get better at that. He's going to get bigger and stronger. Like Zverev, as we've seen over the years with Sasha Zverev, his issues are more mental. That's why I like Jannik Sinner so much. These guys can be perfect on everything, but if they collapse, mental collapses. Let's find a comment. Speaking of mental collapses, there was a big one today. LSB, the collapses of my favorite younger stars is killing me. Tennis-wise, Tsitsipas is the one I favor and really like to watch. Medibear I like because he's a laugh and doesn't give a... Oh, I can't say that. This is a show. This is a family show. But unlike Kyrgios, he respects the game, the tour, and the court, and doesn't act like a twit all the time. Yeah, Kyrgios kind of... I love him, but God, sometimes I've had enough Kyrgios. Remember when I was at the U.S. Open, the first time I went to the U.S. Open? Yeah. First time I went to the U.S. Open, 2008. I was watching Marty Fish, and there was some guy sitting next to me and my friend. Went with a friend of mine named Jonathan. And the guy said, I'm all fished out. I've seen enough fish. Let's get out of here. Sometimes I'm all Kyrgios out. Seen enough Nick Kyrgios. Shapo, when he's on, he's great fun to watch too. Yeah, speaking of mental problems. Mendy collapses when faced with someone playing better than he expected or prepared for him. Just doesn't know what to do. Steph keeps choking when he's got the big win in the bag. Shapo stubbornly refuses to do anything other than go for his shots regardless of results. And I'll add this, regardless of the situation he finds himself. Just hit it cross court. Sometimes you should just hit it cross court with a little height over the net. Jeez. Sasha Zverev never was a fave of mine, but he too chokes on his double faults when he should be stepping into those champion shoes. Yeah, let me go to Tsitsipas and talk about his collapse today, which is definitely mental. But first, let's read this comment above there since we're in comments here. The golden age is certainly nearly over, according to Tim Jones, though we might get a little more yet. I'm hoping so, Tim. It was always going to end one day. That's part of what makes it special. I like Team best of the younger players. He's a real fighter and will hopefully be around for a few years yet. Well, Thomas Mustard might not agree with you. Yeah, Dominic Thiem, things are looking bright for his future. Obviously Thiem has proven himself to be someone that could hang with the big three, that is kind of like the big three, and the devotion, the effort level to getting his body physically fit. So we've seen Federer come back 2017. We've seen Nadal come back multiple times from serious injuries. He's trying to do it right now. Dominic Thiem, he's going to fight just as hard as those guys. Although the word on the street was that he fired his physical trainer, fired somebody, a physio, somebody like that, because the guy said he could get him ready. He could get him ready a lot sooner than he expected, and Thiem's still not ready to go. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. That was a surprising setback. Hopefully things work out. But yeah, let's look at this really quick. Where's my Tsitsipas stats? Okay, Tsitsipas TFO. Let's start with this one, because Tsitsipas wins 100% on the first serve. Typically, you see this, you think, oh, the guy's going to win. Well, 42%. Even then, you'd say, like, okay, if that second serve won 43% was higher, and you're winning 100%, you're only getting it in 42% of the time, but you're winning 100% of the time, you'd think you still had a good shot to win. The problem was the majority of those missed first serves all came serving 3-4, which is a scary situation, almost as scary as serving at 4-5. If you make a mistake serving 4-5, you don't get a chance to come back in that set. And usually the same happens at 3-4. At least you get a shot to break back. And then you get to serve from 4-5, which still sucks. Anyway, so Tsitsipas, he misses 10 first serves in one game. And you see those 3 double faults? He throws all 3 in, including at deuce and on break point. I think it was the third break point. He'd saved a couple in the crucial 3-4 game against TFO. And then, just look at that. TFO obviously playing well, 10 winners on 1 unforced error. And then in the third set, Tsitsipas, he's up 3-0, chance to win it despite the little meltdown happening at 3-4. That's why there's 3 sets here. You can recover from that if you're Steph, but he doesn't. At 3-0 up in the third set, only 1 break, but still 3-0 up, serving 3-1. Tsitsipas misses a bunch of backhands, throws in. You can see, I don't have those stats from the third set, because they don't show the third set stats. They show isolated. They show the whole match, so it doesn't average out right. Anyway, so yeah, he misses a bunch of backhands. I think he throws in a double fault or 2 as well from that point. And then TFO, he was playing pretty aggressive. Tsitsipas really didn't let him do much in the first set, but after that, after what happened in the second set, it's going to be hard mentally next time you run into some trouble to just, shake it off and keep going. So yeah, Tsitsipas, it's a mental issue. Zverev, some mental issues. Medvedev, sometimes some mental issues, although I think he's mentally tougher than those guys. That's why I was saying a while ago, it didn't happen when I said, I didn't think he'd beat Djokovic in the U.S. Open. But I was calling Medvedev, I think it was 2020, I was really saying he's going to win it, maybe even Australian Open this year. There's a few times where I've said, Medvedev's going to win before these other guys because he's tougher mentally. It's such a big part of this sport at every level. Every single level, you see people practicing. They look great. They get in tough situations in big matches, and they lose. It happens all the time. Oh, my God, we're running. Speaking of time, we're running out of time. I've got a couple more things I want to get to, and then we'll get out of here. Got a couple more comments from the Nagster. This is just, what a name. This is just a feeling, but I'm getting post-French 2016 Djokovic where he just kind of fell off perfect that I'm reading this because we're going to get to Djokovic next. By the way, I was going to talk about what's going on with the vaccine mandates in Australia and the Australian Open. It's a mess. No one really knows. There was some rumors, some kind of leak from the WTA saying that they were going to let players in unvaccinated if they did a 14-day quarantine. Djokovic has said he's not going to do that regardless. I don't know. I feel like he would end up doing it. Although, if only unvaccinated players do the 14-day stay in a room, no training allowed quarantine, and everyone else doesn't have to, that is a big disadvantage for those players. So maybe he wouldn't go. I don't know. It's hard to imagine Djokovic wouldn't do anything to go to the Australian Open. But take a listen here to the Nagster. I think he's onto something. Getting a vibe here for the post-French 2016 Djokovic, where he just kind of fell off as soon as he stopped being challenged very hard. To me, Djokovic is the kind of guy who finds motivation in being pushed to his limits by an opponent. He needs rivals that can challenge him while he's playing his best. Well, certainly that's what he's known for. He had the two biggest rivals of all time in Roger and Rafa, who pushed him the hardest anyone's been pushed, and he has triumphed and caught up with them at 20 apiece. And this is a very different tennis landscape now. Yep, tennis will go on and new stars will reign, as some are emphasizing now as SLC 24-6-6. But when we are ever again going to see three legends tied at 20-20-20, trying to get that 21 brass ring, it's just not the same game without them in the mix. Yeah, it surely isn't. But I thought I would really lose interest in watching professional tennis as this started to happen. But watching these young guys, it's still wildly entertaining stuff. I'm happy to have a Yannick Sinner there. Tsitsipas, his game can be just incredible to watch. But obviously he's got the mental issues, so it's worth watching. There's a lot of drama there just to see. Are these guys going to choke? What's going to happen? But, like one of the, what was his name? Coria and Gaston Gaudio. That was one of the last finals before Big Three dominance, and you didn't see guys like that getting into finals anymore. Big Four dominance. Andy Murray did his share in keeping guys like that away from finals of majors. Like, was that so great, seeing a choke fest like that? We saw 2020, Thiem and Zverev, right? Pretty ugly. Maybe not so good. So we would like to see some dominant players. Vanch Agarwal says, my view of how the golden era has ended, well, maybe. We'll see next year. Novak won 3 slams this year. Yeah, Novak, he could do so, but we're about to go to Novak. Boris Becker thinks that he could have some struggles ahead. It looks like the big three, mostly Federer, currently are riddled with injuries, and instead of being evicted out of an apartment by the next gen, they are checking, I don't have the rest. I'm sorry. But he's got a good point. Roger and Rafa, it's looking bad for them. And now I think even Djokovic too. One last thing. Alex Tibet says the golden era has ended. Djokovic still playing some of his best tennis, but Federer is sadly done. I am not convinced Federer is done until we see the latest result of his comeback. The comeback is ongoing. The fact that he made it to the quarterfinals and lost to Hubi Hurkacz at the Wimbledons, it's bad to see the way he lost, but it was also impressive to know that the knee wasn't right, and he still did that. The talent level and the commitment from Federer makes me think even at age 40, he could do it. He's the only person in history who could do it. And, he's got everything for him. Could he get out there and get that knee working? If the team can get the knee working, I think he could win Wimbledon still, even at age 40, almost 41 at that point. Nadal's almost done. Djokovic has another 2 to 3 years, and Nadal has another 1 to 2 years. Maybe. Who knows? Nadal's injuries could be just as bad. Great to see you again, Matt. I missed the show. Sarah Jane says, Novak is not over. Even without AO, he's the overwhelming favorite for Wimbledon, more so if he's not allowed to play AO. Yeah, that's true. Novak is still an overwhelming favorite at Wimbledon. Wimbledon's a tough place to win. It's different. It's very different. It's unique on the tour. And the guys with the experience there always have an advantage. Another reason to think Federer could make a little miracle happen at Wimbledon if they can get him feeling good. All right, last couple of things. I had some other stuff, but I guess we won't get to this. Really quick, I didn't inherit, and you see a bunch of cars around. My auto mechanic, he had this thing. It's a Little Prince ball machine. He gave it to me. It looks pretty awesome, but I need a remote. Comment below if you've ever owned one of these things or you know anything about it. How do you get a remote for this thing? Is there a way to rig it up so I can get some kind of remote action? It doesn't appear to hold a ton of tennis balls in it, so I don't want to have to press that button and then sprint to the other side of the net and have half those balls gone before I get over. Okay, I'm faster than that. Anyways, comment below if you know anything about the Little Prince where I can find the remote. I looked eBay, I looked everywhere, I couldn't find it. Did I say hit the music yet? Because if I didn't hit it, Boris Becker on Novak Djokovic. U.S. Open final loss became a major emotional problem for Novak Djokovic. Becker has suggested Djokovic is having a hard time dealing with that U.S. Open final loss and the loss, of course, of the Grand Slam. Yeah, no surprise there. Former world number 1 Boris Becker believes support Novak Djokovic receiving the U.S. Open final was an indication that he will be loved in the final stretch of his career. Another prediction I made before coming true. You know, I said no matter how many people hate Djokovic, when you realize he's going to be gone forever pretty soon, people will start appreciating his talents, his accomplishments, and maybe clap for him, feel a little bit sorry for him that it's all coming to an end. That ovation should make it very clear that Novak is on the way to being loved in the final stretch of his career. Respect for his incredible performances has always been there, but now people attach themselves with him emotionally. Novak is still digesting the tremendous opportunity he could not take advantage of in that last U.S. Open. It became a major emotional problem for him, and I think so. We talked about it at the time. It must have been weird for Djokovic. I'm sure he enjoyed it, but it was weird having everyone cheering for him all of a sudden when he's used to being cheered against. Just like that one comment from before saying Djokovic is used to being up against the toughest situations in tennis, right? Playing the best players and the crowd is against him, right? You're playing Roger or Rafa and the crowd is against you. That motivates Djokovic better than anything. You know, that's, sometimes he seems very angry. Well, it'd be hard not to be angry in such a situation. So now when you have the crowd wanting you to win or cheering for you because you're getting beat and hoping that it's not a quick match and they want to be entertained longer, I think that was emotionally very weird and a challenge for Djokovic. And we'll see how does that play out in the future. Becker continues, I hope he plays again soon. I think he will see everything more clearly again once he gets back into the dynamics, plays tournaments, and wins matches again. Before the start of the season, I was saying that my main goal is to achieve blah, blah, blah. Okay, that was something Djokovic said. Anyways, that's it for us today. Thank you for joining us on the Coffee Break Tennis Podcast today. We will be back next week. Maybe do 2 videos next week, or one this weekend and one some point in next week. And of course, we have Paris Masters starting next week. Yeah, lots of videos and podcasts will be coming because this is the final stretch of the tennis year. And I think we'll learn a lot about who's going to be doing what in the future from our next-gen players. And of course, I will be hoping to see great things from my personal favorite, Yannick Sinner. Thanks for joining us. We will be back very soon next week, maybe even with a bonus this weekend. See you!